Hey, I'm Chase from Sorcery Contested Realm, and I'm joined by Scott Kirschner, who is new to Sorcery, but a veteran of the world of TCGs. Scott, thanks so much for coming on to talk with us.
Thank you, Chase. I appreciate the time.
Well, so first off, as a new member of Sorcery's artist family, we want to welcome you to the realm on behalf of the team and the community. And before we dive into talking about some specific Gothic pieces, I thought maybe just take some time to get to know you. And so can you tell us a little bit about your journey into illustration? Like, did you, when did you first start getting into illustration? Like, was it something you did as a child, or did you come to it much later?
Well, like a lot of kids, I think they draw, and I spend a lot of time drawing, and I always loved my art classes in elementary school and in kindergarten. And then when I went to high school, I went to a vocational school. I took commercial art.
Okay.
So the instructor, Mr. Lasnak, was an incredible instructor, had worked in the field of illustration, and really gave us a great background on how commercial art worked.
So we don't need to date anything, but you're a veteran, we'll say. Did fantasy art have the same sort of allure and appeal, or when you were taking commercial art, were you drawing also fantasy elements, and how was that received?
Well, here's this. When I was a younger boy, probably 6 or 7, my older brother was an artist.
Okay.
And he had Roger Dean books laying around. He had Frank Frazetta books laying around. And I would sit there and either look through his album collection at all the artwork, or I would look through these Frank Frazetta books and these Roger Dean books and just be taken into another world. They were a huge influence on me. I wouldn't say my work resembles either one of those at this point. I definitely found my own path, but the amount I loved how Frazetta is not your typical fantasy illustrator in the sense of the subject matter might be that, but there's an emotional impact that his paintings have that sometimes I'm not discouraging anybody because it goes all kind. I mean, I'm not slighting anybody is what I should say. But sometimes some fantasy art lacks that emotional connection for me, at least. And when I used to look through the Frazetta pieces, there was such a mood and emotion to his fantasy work. And I still think a lot of what's even done today doesn't have that connection for me.
Okay.
Most of the illustrators or artists that I like, they're not like a lot of the sword and shield kind of stuff. It's more over to the kind of moody and bizarre kind of stuff that I tend to gravitate to. But I need to look at a piece and feel something off it before I stop and take a look at it. And it's not a slight on anybody's. Everybody has their personal preference, which attracts them to your own work or other people's work. So when I got into high school, I was not drawing anything fantasy. I would say I didn't. So in art school, when I went to college, I tended to like a lot of the editorial illustrators like Marshall Arisman and Brad Holland and some of these guys that were doing artwork in Time magazine. The power and the emotion the emotional content to these pieces blew me away. The Giger stuff also, H.R. Giger, a lot of these David Lynch movies, things like that there was an emotional impact. David Lynch movies aren't your typical horror, but they scare me like no hacker slash. They scare me like unlike any hacker slash movie, The Halloweens and Friday the 13th are great, but they don't scare me like David Lynch movies scare me. There's that bizarre kind of strangeness to every scene that I gravitate towards. So no, I really didn't get into fantasy work until, like I said, I was doing more editorial stuff. I got into oil painting my junior year of art school, I came across a yard sale, and this lady, her husband had just passed away. She was selling his oil paints, and I think she sold them to me for $20. It was probably close to $1,000 worth of oil tubes in there. And so I just started messing with them that summer before my senior year, and I just I experimented a lot with the oil paints. Very frustrating medium if you don't know what you're doing. Easy to get muddy real fast.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. It took me, and that's why some of my earlier artwork after I got out of school, I was struggling with a bit because I was still learning the medium also. So, yeah, but the fantasy art didn't happen probably until really when I got into magic.
Yeah.
And magic, I liked the subject of magic because it wasn't your typical fantasy work.
And you were with them till around, what, 97-ish, if I recall?
Yes, 93 to 97, yeah.
And then, was it kind of a linear path from there to Sorcery, or were there some side quests along the way?
It was, so after 97, I saw that I was weeded out, whether it was change of art directors or just at that point they started getting some of the top illustrators in the country and in the world, really. So I had a feeling I was going to start to get weeded out. And eventually I did. So I went from 97, I started just sitting in my studio and doing my own work for nobody, just myself, trying to really refine my craft, refine the oil painting skills. I got an internship with a mural artist that worked in oils, and we would go into these big homes and do these murals. And I really learned how to handle the oil paint a little better working with him, kind of under his tutelage. Even though the subject matter wasn't anything like I did, it was still handling the medium. Learning about liquid, which is a drying medium that I add into the oil so it dries faster. All kinds of things like that I didn't know existed at the time. And yeah, then it was. I guess I just was working as a contractor for a lot of that time while I was doing my artwork. Really was out of the illustration scene, and once I started teaching, which I loved, in 2002, one of my students, they found out that I did work for magic.
Students have a way of doing that, right?
Yeah. And they said, "Hey, Mr. Kirschner, somebody on here is asking if you died." Because I just disappeared. And I was like, "Oh no, no, I'm obviously here still." I wasn't doing any signings. I just kind of just completely disappeared from the scene. I was more concentrating on just trying to find myself, find my subject matter, what I really wanted to do as far as that direction. Is really refining not so much how I was painting, but what I was painting, kind of thing.
Makes sense. And then I guess maybe shifting it over into sorcery. How did you get into sorcery?
So I have a buddy of mine. He's a really good friend, and he loves to try to get me work. And
the best kind of friend.
He's a great friend. He really is. Sometimes I gotta put the handcuffs on him every once in a while because he's just so he's aggressive, So he had reached out to Eric and put me in a group email with Eric. And long story short, Eric gave me Plague Pits in 2023. And Plague Pits didn't end up coming out in that set. I don't know if it was Arthurian Legends that was coming out. And I don't know if they held it off from that and put it to a darker set with Gothic. I don't really know what happened there, but I was pleasantly surprised when I saw that Plague Pits was part of Gothic.
Well, you're right at home here with Gothic with these sort of darker themes with some of your pieces here.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, let's talk about Faith Incarnate here. What's your approach? What does that first spark look like? You get the prompt, and then do you jump right in? Do you walk around the house for 30 minutes, take a couple of days thinking? Like, how does it go from your brain into this amazing piece of art?
Oh, thank you. So what I'll do is I work obviously thumbnails, conceptual thumbnails. Sometimes I will write a word down. Um,
Hmm.
like I'll write a word faith, and then I'll make that word, and I'll think of another word that it correlates with faith, and I might do branches off of faith, and then I'll take branches off of that secondary word, and then I'll try to tie them back. I'll try to tie them back to each other as they come back into the circle. That's one way I'll do things
You sound
sometimes.
like I
Other
can
times,
hear your inner teacher there. I think that's a great
yeah,
system, right?
yeah,
A
yeah.
mind map of
I
some
used to
sort, you know?
I showed some of my students that method. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you get an answer that you wouldn't have got. It's just a different approach.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get nothing off of that method. But I like conceptual. I like symbolism. I like conceptual work. Um, I like coming up with concepts and symbolism to where you don't really you may not know what the meanings of the piece is, but when you ask, there's most of the time with my work, there's a reason for everything in there. Um, Sometimes not, but most of the time, yes. So I mean, with Faith Incarnate, I didn't want to be too literal. I kind of wanted this abstract kind of figure that had all these little elements of religious paintings, or the hands of Mary, which are the lower set of hands, the crucified hands at the upper part. Um, and I think the center hands are also. I think they are also a position of Mary.
Hmm.
I can't really see it on my little phone here,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
believe that's what I did there. Um, but the single eye, is what you'll see inside the Sacred Heart sometimes, the one single eye. The sheep obviously is the cult kind of reference to, or not only that, but maybe the lamb, the innocence of the lamb kind of thing. It could be taken either way, really.
As,
Um,
speaking of lambs, we got some sheep in here as well.
yeah, yes. So that's why they're in there. They're the followers, or they're, like I said, or they're just a symbolism of innocence kind of thing. Um, yeah, but that's pretty much where that one came from. I just kind of wanted to like Frankenstein all these little elements into one kind of figure.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of fun like doing your research for these sorts of things? Like, is that a part of the process you equally enjoy, or do you prefer to like be, on the canvas, sliding the paint around? Is that the best part?
Um, I like the process in general, just the whole process. I like having nothing become something.
Yeah.
Um, I really do, especially if I've struggled with a painting. I like looking back a month later and remembering the struggles. There's always, every painting I do, there's always stuff in there that I wish I could take back or have another hour on, or all that stuff. And so I think my biggest frustration right now for me personally is when I was painting. I'm going to say when I first started working for the gallery in 2012, I had models that I got a rapport with,
Mm-hmm.
both male and female models, and I had access to them nude and I had access to them dressed. I lost that when I backed away and didn't do too much work from 2017 to 2023. I lost all contact with them. So I would say that is my biggest frustration right now, is trying to get that rapport with a model again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, I do enjoy the reference stage. Um, I like having a model though that I can light just and be able to take that photograph with the exact lighting that I need. And I don't have that at the moment.
Hmm.
That's the only part that's frustrating me quite a bit.
Well, if I can ask you some tough questions, then these are the every artist has to answer this. Then, but so the eternal question: how do you know when a piece is done? Right? You said you feel like I had an extra hour, but when are you like, okay, I got it? Like this is it.
That is a question. It's a good question. Um, I think it's one of those things where when I think I'm done, I put it away for about 3 days if I have the luxury of that time, and then I come back to it with a
so,
fresh set of
so
eyes.
so you're like, you're not really sure if you're done. You're like, maybe I'll check.
Exactly, exactly. So I come back after a few days and I take another look at it. And if I see something and I go to pick up my paintbrush, put a little paint onto the palette, and go to touch something up, if I am hesitant, I know just to leave it alone at that point.
Okay.
My gut kind of tells you, and I'm sure a lot of artists' guts tell them when something really needs to be altered. Um, with artwork for cards that are getting shrunk down to a small size, you obviously can get away with some things because they're being shrunken down so tiny. Rather than when I do work for galleries. Um, so sometimes it's a little easier to let something go in card art than it is in a gallery work.
Well, let's flip over and talk about your other piece here, Kiss of Judas.
Yes.
Maybe actually thinking about that, like, would you have approached this painting differently if you knew it wasn't going to be card art? Because one thing that stands out to me immediately is like when you put this card on the table, it's like immediately recognizable, like really stands out. Do you factor in
This
that
is one of my
composition? Yeah.
This is one of my favorite pieces, and this is one I did, and I spent a lot of time on composition on this one. I did probably 10 to 15 little thumbnails as far as how I wanted this composition to go. Um, I love trees. I love painting trees. It's almost like drawing a figure for me. They're very
I mean, in
figurative.
this case.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Just that kind of swing. That beast, that little demon or whatever it is inside,
Yeah.
is almost wearing the tree as like an outfit almost. But this is one of my favorite pieces. Limited palette, really. Everything kind of came together on this one for me. I was very happy with this piece. Uh, there's only, out of the 43 cards I did for the other game, I'm only happy with probably 10 of them. And I'm trying to get my ratio a little better with the sorcery stuff. This is one I definitely enjoy. I'm happy with how this piece came out.
Now, was that the piece like this? Was it kind of smooth sailing from the start, or are you kind of taking it in methodical steps? So you're just tackling it in small pieces, or were there any moments in the creation of this piece where you're like, "Oh, I don't know, or this is actually really hard," or "Oh, it's not. I got to wrestle with it a little bit."
Just in the very beginning, because I had multiple trees in there, and I wasn't sure. I was going to have. It was going to at first going to be a figure that was. You just saw the bow and arrow with two hands holding the bow and arrow, and the arrows being pulled back out of the hollow in the tree. And I didn't like that because the arrow wasn't marking the deer. I needed the deer to be marked and not killed. Um, the, Judas didn't kill Jesus; he marked Jesus for death. So that's kind of so I pulled back when I did the very beginning undertone stages. I had multiple trees in there. I had the creature wasn't what it was. It was like I said, the arrow, the bow and arrow. And as I worked in a couple days, I ended up wiping a bunch of the trees off and just changing it to one tree with a kind of a monster or creature inside the tree. Yeah.
Now, when you're creating this piece, I know you're thinking about it like, hey, it's going to fit on a card. But do you ever think about like what the players or the wider audience that's going to interact with this piece might be feeling, or like, is there something you maybe want them to feel or have you want this painting to evoke for them when they see it?
I can't lie to you. I do think about the players holding these cards. I think more of the pressure of I just want to give them something enjoyable that they're going to enjoy having in their deck. Or I know sometimes it's a 50-50 thing because it depends what it's doing in the game also. Right. But I do think about the player in that sense that I want to give them something that they enjoy looking at. I want them to look at this. This is one of those pieces I hope they look at and kind of think about the story, what happens after this deer gets marked. I simplified the deer down so it was very graphic. So I was hoping it would have the impact that it looks like it's having on the card itself.
Well, so do you consider yourself a storyteller as well as an artist there?
I think that's the illustration side of me. Illustration is storytelling. It goes back to caveman times, cave drawings is what I'm saying.
The blood hand is reminding me of, what is it, like Lascaux or something? You've got the...
yes. But I like if somebody comes up to me and at a gallery and they have a story that they tied into the painting, I love hearing it. Then I know I was successful, that they actually got some sort of story off the painting. Sometimes I'll get people that want to know my story, want to know what I was thinking when I did the painting. But I especially love when people have come up to me and said, "Hey, I had one painting a long time ago, right after art school. I did with this figure. It had a tree branch tied around his head, and he only bought the painting because it reminded him of the dog in Grinch Stole Christmas." So he loved it, and that was his favorite movie growing up, and that's what he connected to that painting, and he bought the painting. And I love when people can get that kind of a personal attachment to the work,
Well, folks, if you're watching, leave a comment below if there are pieces of Scott's that really resonate with you, and we'll have you read over the comments later, Scott, and you can soak in some of the goodwill and the love from the community for your work here.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
And then I guess as you spend a lot of your time doing art. Now you're back to doing full-time art, correct?
I did. I made the jump. I was still up till May of this year. I was ripping out kitchens and putting in kitchens and bathrooms with a company. And I just decided my knees are 56 years old and my hips are 56 years old. And I was getting home and I was having a hard time getting up to my door after I took an hour ride home from work. I just stiffened up and I said, I got to make the jump. It's now or never kind of thing. And so I made the jump, and I've been doing a lot of SCG cons to supplement income. They're very, I love the SCG cons, the people getting out to meet the fans. And now I get to also meet Sorcery fans at the SCG cons. I'm really pumped to see what shows I get next year from them. But yeah, so I took the jump in May, and everything's been, knock on wood, everything's been going really well so far as a full-time artist.
And I think you said you're Philadelphia, and so I know there's a lot of fans that are running their own community events that are always looking to have artists. Then are there ways that they can get in contact with you? And are you up for trekking on over and joining some of their events?
Absolutely. I love coming out, meeting the fans and the fans of the game, and I love talking to people, and it's the best. So yes, anybody that has any events locally that want me to come out and sign cards or whatever, I'm definitely up for it.
Well, okay, that's amazing. And so, and if we want to direct people to you, what's the best place for people to connect with you? Is it through your website, through social media? Where should we direct people?
So I can leave you an email, and I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Inner Wasteland.
Okay, Inner Wasteland, love it.
Yeah, Inner Wasteland, and then I also have my email address. I don't know.
Well, we'll save the Instagram.
Okay.
We'll do.
Okay.
Otherwise, I hear lots of other messages or something from the internet.
Yeah, they can message me on Instagram.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, Scott, thanks so much for coming on here and taking some time to talk with us and share your work. We're super excited for people to get to see it with Gothic. We're looking forward to seeing a lot more of your work in the future and people exploring your art throughout the whole set.
Thank you, Chase. It was an honor. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Leave a comment down below as you're discovering Gothic and uncovering some more of Scott's work. Let them know, what some of your favorite pieces are, what ones are speaking to you. Because I think sometimes it's, artists don't always get to see that firsthand reaction to people experiencing their work. And it's really invaluable if you leave that down in the comments. So we'll leave it there. And until next time, best of luck contesting the realm.